in P3, and that front row, how about it? Max Verstappen there for the 5th time this season and for the 6th time in his Formula One career. George Russell will lead us from the line. We will just get confirmation of who is running on what tyre in a few moments. The clock will strike. It is time for the 44th Canadian Grand Prix to be held at this circuit. And we see George Russell, Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri on the medium tyre. But crucially, there goes Lando Norris.
And Charles Leclerc on the hards. So there was new tyres straight away on Piastri's McLaren. That will give him a lot of pace in this first stint and off the line compared to the top two that are both unused. So there goes Oscar in third. Look on the left-hand side there. Norris and Leclerc starting on the hards. I like it from McLaren and Ferrari, doing something different. It is going to be critical for Norris to stay ahead of Leclerc at the start, because that's kind of like the second race in this Grand Prix. They'll hopefully concertina up towards the end, but track position between those two, 7th and 8th, is going to be critical.
DC will give Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc a slower launch off the line. Alex Albon's on that medium tyre, and that Williams has not been a poor car across this weekend.
Yeah, it will, but it's such a short run to the first corner that you really need to have missed the reaction as well as Max Verstappen getting as much heat in the brakes and having to overlap with George Russell on the entry to the hairpin. So I wouldn't be as concerned with an offset in tyres for the launch down into turn one. I'd be more concerned, actually. I'd rather be on the right-hand side of the grid than the left, because that's naturally much cleaner.
It's difficult to go round the outside from second place. If George can just match Max into the first corner, he will try and shuffle him wide through towards turn two. It's a difficult one to try and launch your way with that short run to the first corner. Look at the field spread here. We had a great view of it from that high shot at the hairpin there. But these guys at the back, they're so far away from the front of the field, who are already lining up on the grid.
It's going to be a long, long wait in front of a capacity crowd again. 352,000 people have made their way onto the man-made island that has hosted the Canadian Grand Prix 43 times. And look at how Max Verstappen is pointing that Red Bull. Feisty stuff. He wants to get that launch, that first part of the start, drop the clutch and get straight across towards George on the inside.
You see how he positions the car right on top of that yellow line, trying to take every millimetre he can, and slightly angled towards George. This is going to be a cracking run to the first corner.
A reminder for you, Max Verstappen is 1 penalty point away from being banned from the next Grand Prix. George Russell and Max Verstappen have history. They race each other in an intense way. But this is Formula One. This is the pinnacle of motor racing. Everyone races each other in an intense way. 18 cars on the grid, 2 in the pit lane, and 150 metres down to turn one. Green flag at the back. Here come the lights. The Canadian Grand Prix is underway. George Russell gets the launch off the line that he was looking for. He will maintain the lead into turn number 1. Max Verstappen in second. Around the outside goes Kimi Antonelli. Outside line, trying to get to the inside. Remember, fresh new tyres for Oscar Piastri. Top 3 are as they were. Antonelli, will he go brave to the inside to try and take third? He does so, and he improves to put 2 Mercedes in the top 3. There was no opportunity for Max Verstappen to get by. It's Russell, then Verstappen, then Antonelli. Down a place goes our championship leader as Russell tries to break away. There was no change between Hamilton, Alonso, Norris and Leclerc. Colapinto gained a place and Albon's trying to take it back. That's the battle you're looking at the moment. Can he get through? Colapinto won't want to give it up and Albon's off the road as a result. Rejoining, flat to the floor, cars everywhere, either side, and Hulkenberg's going to take 2 places. If he can get there, he does take 2 places on a frenetic opening lap. Colapinto and Albon fighting each other, and Hulkenberg was the benefit.
Yeah, he'll love that. Nice, clean opening lap so far, apart from Albon. I think that it was always going to be a tough ask to try and go round the outside on the brakes into that chicane. The battle continues down to the final corner.
It's melee between all of these guys still. Hulkenberg is now up into 9th, so that's really played out for Hulkenberg, who was a star of Spain as well. Out front, what a great move from Kimi Antonelli to get round Oscar Piastri at the start there, all the way through to turn 3. And again, once you've got the inside for these chicanes, it's really difficult, as we saw with Albon, to try and hold it round the outside. You're going to be ushered towards the grass, and Piastri saw that coming and bailed out rather than bouncing across the grass, and he's down to 4th, and that will allow a nice buffer for George Russell up front.
The Williams mechanics will have breathed a sigh of relief, because Alex was out of character in Barcelona with damaging the front wing, and it almost looked like he could have damaged the car running across the grass, but it looks like he's got away with it.
Franco Colapinto is racing for his Formula One future. He was never going to yield into that corner. Alex Albon decided he wasn't going to do so either, and in the end they cost themselves a place. So down now to 12th goes Alex Albon. Isaac Hadjar, who had a 3-place penalty for impeding, has got by as well. So Albon forced off the road, kept it planted and lost out. He's down to 12th.
They're tough midfield battles. All the teams are so finely matched. Albon was brilliant yesterday to get into the top 10, but he's just undone that work. And Colapinto getting his elbows out in just his 4th race with the team. Still continuing a good weekend. Norris, by the way, at the start, I think at one point he was side by side with Hamilton through turn 2, but then was on the outside, and Fernando Alonso came back through at turn 3.
Fastest lap, Max Verstappen within DRS range of George Russell. Didn't get the reaction time Jolyon talked about. If Russell could match Max Verstappen's start, there's just not enough meters down to the first braking zone of the racetrack. He got the launch that he needed. Last year, George Russell led the first 20 laps of the Canadian Grand Prix, but he left disappointed because he opened the door for Max Verstappen to get through and win. As they drive through the pollen, you can see that is being dispersed all over the road. It was dusty from the wildfires at the start of the weekend. It was low grip. We've laid some rubber down. It's got faster and faster and faster. Qualifying yesterday, the quickest that we've had here since 2019. George Russell has the fastest first sector. Max Verstappen has the fastest middle sector. 0.8 of a second for the lead of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, and everything that I can see would suggest they're not trying to sort of find out where the tyres are and playing a long game. They look like they're hustling on and pushing, and Max running in that slightly dirty air, but he's got the advantage of the DRS. I think we need to keep an eye on Norris, the first of the hard runners, to just see where he ends up falling with the lap time. You tend to race with the group around you, so right now his lap time's away from where we're seeing with Russell, but once he gets a bit of clean air, let's keep an eye on that. That'll give us an indication just how good that hard tyre is.
Verstappen's Red Bull is a race winner if he can get it into clear air. That's the key for him. We've seen it already a few times this year, and we saw it in Jeddah and other examples, Imola, where he can just control the race. But what we saw last time out in Spain was he didn't have that. He was trying to put the pressure on the race leaders at the start, on Oscar Piastri, and he just dropped back in the end because he was using too much of his tyres to get his nose into the clear air. I think he's doing the same here, ramping up the pressure on Russell, hoping that Russell will crack and he'll get that shot at the lead, where we don't often see Max looking back, but George has got to just hold his nerve at this stage.
It's 0.8 of a second. Go on, DC.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and our young charger, our rookie Antonelli, sitting back, watching, observing. I had the chance to talk with him on the grid, and he was like, this is, in my mind, it's a long game plan. So he's just giving himself some clean air and hoping for a bit of action with the two experienced guys out front.
Max is piling on the pressure, though, isn't he? Really, really aggressive through the final chicane, getting another chance towards the first corner. But it's a very difficult place to try and make an overtake. But look at the attitude of the Red Bull, really flinging it around, having loads of confidence tucked in the dirty air here.
This is an amazing sight between George Russell, who put together a lap in qualifying that he said gave him goosebumps at the end for the first time in his entire motor racing career. He was pumped up. But look at the Red Bull, able to stay with George Russell. Very, very close by modern Formula One standards.
This is the danger zone now for Russell. Verstappen is closer this lap around into the hairpin, and then we're going to get the long back straight before the final chicane. Traction here is critical. Russell might have done enough, but there's going to be a big slipstream coming as well for Max.
George Russell is trying to win his 4th Grand Prix today. Max Verstappen has 65 of them and is still fighting for this title. 49 points behind Oscar Piastri coming into this Grand Prix, but crucially, only scoring 1 point last time out with that penalty after contact with George Russell. A massive swing in championship momentum towards McLaren, towards the man from Melbourne, currently in 4th. Russell not driving on his mirrors. It was a wet race last year. There were a couple of lockups for all of the drivers who were on the podium eventually. That was Russell in 3rd, Norris in 2nd, and this man won the Grand Prix. He's a 3-time winner around this racetrack.
Say George Russell not showing any signs of feeling the pressure, because for any young racers out there, if you want to imagine what intimidating is, it's looking in your mirrors and seeing Max Verstappen's car in DRS zone. But the Mercedes, I thought there was more of an offset in straight line speed between the two cars than we're actually seeing. So Max a bit further back this time. I think it looks like he's going to have to sort of slightly change his game plan here and play a longer thought process to getting the overtake.
Yeah, he's given it a good go, hasn't he, for 5 laps, but this time he's not even getting DRS now as he's dropped back on lap 6. 1.2 seconds now the gap, and he cannot sit there for too many laps because the degradation is not nothing around this circuit. We're expecting it could even be 2 stops. So if Max just keeps throwing the car around behind the Mercedes out front, he will overheat those tyres and he will fall into that trap that he had in Barcelona, which kind of led to the 3-stop that nearly worked in the end, but it was all because the deg early on for Verstappen was a bit higher.
It was a fairly clean getaway for all the cars. There was no sign of an advantage on the fresher tyres for Piastri, so fairly nip and tuck, and then Kimi saw that wide opportunity. Look how much space actually he's giving everyone around him, and in the end he got a good enough drive off the second corner to claim the track position on the McLaren. Great stuff from Kimi Antonelli.
It really, really nice positioning there from Antonelli. Everyone bunched up so much on the inside at turn 2. Norris nearly did go around the outside of both Alonso and Hamilton, but then was just stuck on the outside and lost those 2 positions back again. Max, you can see there's just such a short run to the first corner. With George on the inside, there's not much to do. Here we go, Antonelli tucking in on the inside line, and Piastri cannot chop across there and cover that line for turn 3. So Kimi through. And that's a nice bit of... I mean, Verstappen would have been chuffed to see that as well. Piastri is a big threat in this race with that new set of tyres.
This was further around the lap. It was going from turn 1 this moment. And Albon bailing out over the bumps of the runoff at turn 8 when he rejoins at turn 9. Hülkenberg went to the left-hand side. Colapinto went to the right-hand side. And this is going to be the door swinging wide open for Nico Hülkenberg, currently in 9th.
Yeah, Nico's been around long enough to know what potentially was coming, and in the end he would have said thank you very much. A little bit of desperation, I think, from Alex, who's having a great season, but in that turn, Julian, as you know, turn 8, you just go straight from 8 to the left side apex at 9. So I just don't see how you're going to drive around the outside of someone.
It would have had to be very meek from Colapinto to allow him to do that, I think, on the opening lap there, fighting it up in the top 10. I think Albon was chancing his arm against an inexperienced driver, but Colapinto held firm. And then you could just see the experience of Hülkenberg waiting back then, so well positioned on the exit to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, you can see Verstappen now struggling on traction coming out of the hairpin, and that's allowing Antonelli to close that gap down. So Russell has been very good with dealing with that initial pressure. He's now able to set his own pace, and that looks slightly quicker than that Red Bull.
You know who's on fire at the moment, just in Formula One generally? Fernando Alonso. He's in an Aston Martin. A few races ago, this was a team in turmoil, and now it's a team that's fighting again with the Ferraris. He's within a second of Lewis Hamilton, up in 6th place, held off the challenge of Norris at the start, keeps qualifying very well. Now he's got some points, and Aston Martin, in the hands of Alonso, are looking like they're regular point scorers again.
Yeah, he said yesterday that he's understood the car since Imola. They brought updates, but he's able to get the most out of them, and he's chasing his old rival Lewis Hamilton for 5th position at the moment. Lance Stroll, his teammate, down in 18th place. This is the drone shot that we've got coming out of turn number 4. This circuit defined by chicanes and tight exits to the wall. Antonelli is now 1.4 seconds away from Max Verstappen. Kimi Antonelli, 18 years of age, chasing his first Grand Prix podium today.
Front take is better than FP2, rear take is worse. Front take is better than FP2, rear take is worse.
That one loud and clear.
Yeah, so that means it could now be just a plain rear limitation on the tyres. Might mean that you want to be careful with too much of an oversteer balance, adding too much front wing at a pit stop, for example. That's why that feedback is always critical. It's quite an even front and rear split normally, but with the temperatures coming up, Oscar there just letting his team know what's going to be the limiting factor. I'm interested out front as to whether Max is backing off here to try and have another go at George out front, or if those 5 laps of piling on the pressure has taken its toll already on those medium tyres, because you've got Antonelli now coming in within a second of Verstappen.
That's come down from 1.6 to 1.1, hovering around DRS, which is worth a lot around this circuit. And you've got the 3 zones around the racetrack as well to exploit the rear wing element opening in order to aid overtaking in Formula One. Here's the championship leader by 10 points over his teammate Lando Norris. At the moment, he'd be extending that lead over Norris. 4th for Piastri, 7th for Norris.
Look at the 2 ahead now. Antonelli does look really close to the back of Verstappen. I think Piastri is a threat here for everyone in front. We know the pace of the McLaren and race trim is good. He has the new tyres on board, didn't use them in qualifying, and now he's given himself a bit of clear air.
These tyres are not great. These tyres are not great. These tyres are not great.
We're seeing higher deck than expected on medium as well.
There to appraise those hard tyres. And no matter what you found in free practice, is Lando's got DRS and closer than he has been to Alonso, who's going to feel the heat. I guess Fernando will play, he'll do big picture. He doesn't really lose any time right now over defending to Norris.
I wonder if he's just skipped through the chicane there at the end to allow Lando to be quite as close. He certainly made a mistake on the last lap, and now Norris is piling on the pressure, and Alonso has dropped a long way from Hamilton. Just a lap ago, he was within DRS range.
Thoughts on tyres, please, Max? Not good. It's very fragile.
Well, that information
Thoughts on tyres, please, Max? Not good. It's very fragile. Thoughts on tyres, please, Max? Not good. It's very fragile.
And an easy enough pass, and here is Well, this must be heartwarming for Antonelli fans around the world, seeing him now battling with a four-time world champion.
We are monitoring issues similar to Barcelona with the PU, not as bad.
Kimi Antonelli hasn't scored a point in the last 3 races. He's looking at the world champion ahead. DRS open, second place right there. And Max Verstappen comes into the pit.
We are monitoring issues similar to Barcelona with the PU, not as bad.
It's early.
Yeah, and Antonelli will just have experienced for the first time that slightly weird scenario where you think you're going to overtake someone and they don't slow down and they're going to the pit lane because they can brake so much later. I don't know, Jolene, if you ever experienced that here, but the first time it happened for me, I was like, they've lost their brakes, and it's like, no, they haven't. They're going for a pit stop.
Yeah, you kind of want to match them on the brakes, don't you, as well, though? You kind of want to release and try and hold in, and then you realise they're not going for the same bit of track as you.
Tell you who is going for the same bit of track, the Hasses. One thing Esteban Ocon, who takes the position away from Oliver Behrman, said yesterday is the degradation hits instantly. You're not expecting it. It doesn't come over a number of laps. It's like a cliff face this weekend on this circuit, and he has torn past Oliver Behrman. He's in 13th position, running the hard tyre.
So this is where I think Piastri can now come in, if he's been saving his tyres in that first stint. The medium guys are just struggling so badly now.
It is the cliff edge, and Ocon takes another place away this time from Hadjar, who's really struggling. The medium tyres falling away.
Yeah, Russell has to pit to cover off Verstappen and an undercut threat. He has to keep the net lead of the race. But Max has come out in traffic.
Look at this is like a Formula 2 race at the moment. If you're on the hard tyre, you're having the time of your life. If you're on the medium tyre, you're hoping that you're the lead car and you can get in first without having to wait for your teammates. You're hoping that you've split strategy. That's the race leader, George Russell. Where is Max Verstappen? Because he's had the fresher rubber for a lap. Russell comes out, and Russell is in to turn 2, crucially ahead of Max Verstappen.
Yeah, he did enough because Max was struggling for 5 or 6 laps before pitting. He was even being passed by Antonelli, wasn't he, at the pit stop? So Russell had the buffer, and Mercedes are taking no chances with him, and Verstappen stays distantly in the mirrors.
It'll be interesting to see whether they do the same thing with Antonelli. It'll really, I guess, be dictated by where he would fall out after his pit stop into any traffic. Verstappen came out into that gap there just behind the Sauber, so that should work quite well for him as he go on board with Lando Norris.
Russell has pitted, so this is plan A. We need one of those amazing races from you here.
It's going to be an amazing lap, amazing stint, but just give us an amazing race, please.
Russell has pitted, so this is plan A. So this we need one of those. We need one of those races from you. Amazing races from you here.
You've just waited, and now Mercedes are covering off Red Bull. Red Bull are trying to attack Mercedes. None of them are looking at McLaren, and Piastri's been minding his own business, having lost that place at the start. Now he's in the race lead.
Can the championship leader unfurl the pace of the McLaren and get himself into contention to win another Grand Prix this year? He's taken 5 already in 2025. Piastri, Hamilton, Norris, Leclerc and Alonso, the top 5. Russell has stopped, and he's ahead of Hülkenberg. He's ahead of Max Verstappen. Here's Antonelli, who's 2.5 seconds off the back of the man that he was very close to at the final chicane when Max Verstappen pitted.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of getting on those fresh tyres. Suddenly Verstappen's able to push on his outlap and open out a bit of a gap to Antonelli. So now it'll be a question. We're a bit further into the Grand Prix. Car's less heavy, a bit more rubber down. Just because we've seen in that first stint the Mercedes looked like it was doing a better job, as we're going to see Lando Norris get a fairly easy pass here on Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, the hard tyre is the one to be on. Lewis Hamilton's coming into the pits, but he's going to be passed before he gets there by Lando Norris. Has to back out of it, and then he will aim for the pit lane. Lando Norris up to second place.
Piastri stays out on the mediums. His lap times, they are dropping, but not as badly as some of the others. It's not going to pay off right now for Piastri, but later on in the race, he'll have the fresher tyres compared to those on the same strategy, which is Russell, Verstappen and Antonelli. See Ferrari at work.
Hamilton coming in for the stop at one of his very best circuits, where he won his first Grand Prix here in 2007. He added 6 more victories in his career after that. He's always been on the podium in the first 10 races of his career. He's not managed that so far in his time of Ferrari, a time with Ferrari, but he's hoping for a dramatic Canadian Grand Prix in front of him to give him that opportunity. Identical first sector times for George Russell and Max Verstappen out there pushing on the hard tire.
I'm surprised that Lewis, it looks like he's struggling to get those tyres switched on, believe it or not, because Behrman is all over his gearbox in that first sector. I'd expect to see Hamilton pushing on to where Ocon is and capitalising on that fresh rubber.
This is Max Verstappen going past Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg yet to visit the pits. Fresh rubber for Verstappen, slam dunk move, and he goes chasing after George Russell.
Piastri pits from the race lead. Here he is.
So Oscar Piastri, he's got that offset, having run a few laps longer than Verstappen, than Russell, all the way to the end. If you're the Constructors' Champions, you get to choose what end of the pit lane you want to be at. McLaren have chosen the end that is close to the exit, and Piastri is back into the race.
To be honest, I'm a bit underwhelmed, actually, that he couldn't extract a little bit more pace, having dropped away from the top three earlier on, and he couldn't go too far longer than Antonelli and nor than Verstappen and Russell, who pitted earlier on. So definitely a better stint, but he's not got the track position. He's not got a massive chance to come back, and McLaren don't seem to have that amazing race pace that we've seen before.
So I guess the question now is just how long can Norris go on that hard tyre? Antonelli's going to get that pass in Hulkenberg down into turn 8. And Hulkenberg, yeah, understandably looking at his own Grand Prix. Antonelli looking really assured around this racetrack. First time visitor, of course.
He's never turned a lap around Montreal. His temporary facility on the island of Notre Dame in the middle of the St. Lawrence River. It's a street circuit that has thrown up so many very interesting results. Lots of first-time winners, including Lewis Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo through the years. And Antonelli is trying to be a first-time podium finisher today in a Grand Prix. Late on the brakes for Carlos Sainz. Late braking move and a position gain for Sainz, who was distraught with being impeded when he had Isaac Hadjar in the way yesterday. And that is the Williams driver getting past Bortoletto. Tsunoda is the driver we're on board with, trying to improve. And he did improve, up to 13th, going in to the final chicane.
Whoa, that was pretty tight on when he pulled out from the slipstream there. Two cars with DRS, and his front wing very, very close to the rear tyre of Bortoletto. But that was what we call in the business a block pass. So Sainz sends it down the inside, locks up, and you just have to keep going straight until he decides to turn. Otherwise, you're going to have contact.
It was actually a really nice pass. It looked kind of all bells and whistles as he sent it in, smoked it late, but it was a dummy pass as well from the outside in. And as you say, DC, that's in a bit of a DRS train, so normally you'd wait for the straight, but they're getting no advantage there. So for Sainz, send it in late, and then by the time you're locked up, as you say, Bortoletto couldn't do anything about it.
Oscar Piastri, the latest driver to go past Hulkenberg. Piastri, who lost the third place that he started from the grid to Antonelli at the third corner of the racetrack. Tsunoda has got past Behrman. He is up to 12th position. Norris has yet to stop. Charles Leclerc has yet to stop. Both drivers electing to start this Grand Prix on the hard tyre after both had mistakes in qualifying, left them out of position compared to the pace they expected from their cars. But that was true of so many drivers inside the top 10. Last time around, Norris did a 1:16.1. So did Charles Leclerc.
And George Russell only did a 15.9 and Verstappen a 16.0 on much fresher hard tyres. So Norris and Leclerc's hards are sticking in, and that gap's not coming down significantly. At the moment, 6 seconds from Russell to the race leader who hasn't pitted. Russell's still in the net lead. They have, of course, got to run the mediums, which are very fragile tyre in today's Grand Prix. They've got to run one set of them, Norris and Leclerc, so they'll take punishment, but try and do it later on, and maybe hope for a safety car at some point as well to help out, and at least a lighter car to mean that the deg isn't quite as oppressive as it is in that first stint.
Lewis is about to get into a sequence of some passes there, although a little bit surprised to see just how good the traction of Ocon was coming off the turn. Yes, he had DRS, but not in that early phase. So I'm a little bit confused with Hamilton's pace on these new tyres. Is he just really trying to be super gentle and bide his time?
Well, he's going to make the move on Alex Albon, who's on fading medium tyres, and he's got his teammate directly behind him now, and it's quite a contrast. Out in Q1 yesterday for Carlos Sainz, but he's on the right rubber at the moment.
Hamilton's losing 2 seconds a lap to Norris out front. He's on fresher tyres as well. So this traffic is a real headache for Lewis, and he's in that DRS train as well. He's just cleared that the Williams of Albon, so now he can go and attack Ocon. But they were side by side as Hamilton pitted, and now Norris easily has the place, and he's got the fresher tyres when he pits as well.
What a contrast for the Williams drivers. Carlos Sainz started in 16th position. Alex Albon started in 9th place. The medium tyre, not the one to be on. The hard tyre, greater in terms of performance at the moment and longevity. And that medium tyre that was the softest compound 1 year ago. That was the soft tyre in last year's Canadian Grand Prix. It's not lasting long.
I don't really know why you don't listen to me. I'm really good on
And another pass coming for Lewis Hamilton. We'll deal with Alex Albon's complaints on the radio. He goes up to 7th place, past Esteban Ocon in the Haas. And Albon has seen his race.
I don't really know why you don't listen to me. I'm really good on
Than Carlos Sainz, his teammate, and he's just been passed in the first stint. So what Albon would have been saying is these mediums are ranked, they're just degrading horribly. You can see it now.
Boxes up.
No, don't box now. Don't box now. Forget boxing now. We can't do all that and then box.
Yeah, they fluffed this, Williams. Albon wanted the pit stop when everyone else that was a medium runner has pitted. Williams have tried to make this a one-stop race by going long, and now they're stuck in the middle of it. So you can't win either way at this point. They've lost all of that, and he hasn't even pitted.
He's in the 20s, in 1 minute 20.0 last time around. He's...
Boxes up.
No, don't box now. Don't box now. Forget boxing now. We can't do all that and then box.
That took him to just outside of the top 10, but now everyone else has pitted, and they're back with him.
Yeah, I think, though, you're not going to suddenly find performance from those tyres. So if it's 120s now, it's going to hover around there. So you've almost got to accept your fate and just come in and race from where you are. That time around pulled it back to a 19.2. So that is a bit better, but he's still painfully slow on those tyres.
Yeah, it's Hulkenberg and Colapinto that are the fringes of the points that he's trying to race. But it's just a horrible thing, especially when you've been calling it for a long time and you've been ignored. I used to think everyone else, the strategists, they're looking at all the information. You're driving a car, just giving the feedback. But when you think you're calling it better than them, there's no more frustrating feeling in racing, I think.
Yuki Tsunoda, the next driver to get past Alex Albon. Tsunoda, who started 18th on the grid after his 10th-place penalty for overtaking under a red flag. A penalty that Tsunoda was furious about. He called it incredibly unfair. He went past the damaged car of Oscar Piastri on the way back to the pits in practice. Other cars did hold station and trundle back under red flag conditions. Tsunoda went by, and he was given a 10th-place penalty by the stewards. He's put him on the back foot again. He's trying to return to the points for the first time since the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix 3 races ago, as Bortoleto is the next car to get past Alex Albon.
Frustrating day for Albon continues. These are moves for position, but it's just those ones for the points are going to gobble him up, having made the stop, and that's them coming in the background there. And now Alonso doesn't hang around either, down the inside at turn 1, and another place goes for Albon, who almost kisses the back of the Aston Martin with his Williams.
I know, at this pace, he's going to come around and lap himself, isn't he? He's going so slow.
Poor old Alex Albon, as DC pointed out to you at home, it's probably the most approachable guy in the paddock. Not today. I'm not sure I'd be brave enough to put a microphone in his direction at the end of the Grand Prix.
Can I just say also, he used to be a tenant in one of my apartments in Monaco, and he was exemplary. He left it cleaner than I presented it.
I would have been astonished if you'd say, yeah, he's actually really messy. Quite a difficult tenant.
No, he was excellent.
This is Lance Stroll returning to the cockpit, having sat out the Spanish Grand Prix. He wasn't happy with his hand a couple of weeks ago. He said it was injuries related to injuries that he suffered a couple of years ago in the Bahrain Grand Prix, but he's got a grandstand cheering him on at the hairpin that we've just been out of, and he's looking to do what he's done 5 times before in his Formula 1 career and score points at home. Through he goes past the Williams.
Another one goes for Albon, and the tumble continues. 2 places in 1 lap, and finally he bails out of it. He's had enough on the medium. Still not really far enough probably in the race. It's a long-ranging one-stop if he wants to try it from there. Out front, Norris has just pumped in his best lap of the race, matched by Leclerc. Russell fractionally quicker. Here we go. This is what I was going to say. It's close now between Russell and Verstappen as well. They're all bunching up now for second place, and they're not far away from the lead.
Plan B.
I think plan C.
Copy.
They don't argue with him anymore, do they?
Plan B.
I think plan C.
Copy.
I just like when they're assertive. That's one of the things, if we were going to hindsight offer some criticism, it would be there seems to have been a bit of uncertainty in some of their strategy calls in the past, but not there. Absolutely clear. Team offering up an option, driver calling his own desires, and then they just move forward. And I think that, when you're all aligned, it just gives you confidence, gives you performance.
And I think that's Leclerc calling for a one-stop race. He's in a decent position on track. He's made 1 less pit stop. He's made no pit stops compared to those behind. Same as Norris out front. But the tyres are carrying on. These hards are working. The mediums aren't. So that's the problem with the one-stop. You've got to put on a tyre that's going to be horrible to get to the end. So he's going to need to do another 20 laps at least. But he's got to try and keep that consistency. Russell's just within DRS range now.
Yeah, Russell getting past quickly here is absolutely vital. Max Verstappen is 1.3 seconds away. That gap was 2 seconds, and it is now getting closer and closer and closer. And a fascinating strategic split. Lando Norris, who started down in 7th place, leads the Grand Prix but has yet to stop. The same applies to Charles Leclerc, who's calling the strategy shots from his cockpit. He's got the highest placed driver who has stopped directly behind him, George Russell, trying to convert pole position, only his 6th pole position in his Formula 1 career, into just his 4th Grand Prix win. And Max Verstappen highly motivated to take it away from him. How quickly can George Russell clear the Ferrari in front, or will he be restricted to old hard tyre pace?
I think that with the DRS, his best chance, of course, is going to be after he exits turn 10, the hairpin onto the back straight. It doesn't look like he's close enough to be able to do anything before then, unless he compromises his entry speed into the hairpin by going for the inside. You have to drive this racetrack as it evolves with fingertips. You're burning fuel off, the car becomes a bit more responsive. You're dealing with tyres that are getting older. So it's very much a fingertip type racetrack.
Okay, it's going to be good traction out of the hairpin for George Russell. That's turn 10, and he's into a DRS zone in a few moments' time. He's going to be into 2nd place. He's got the momentum, and he's going to get the position. George Russell makes that pass efficiently. Charles Leclerc has no interest in repassing. He just wants to get on with his stint in the Grand Prix, and Russell is through efficiently. Crucial move for him to try and win his 1st Grand Prix of the year.
Yeah, it's important for Russell that he doesn't lose time and not be able to clear these 2 drivers out front. He's got the fresher tyres. He needs to make the most of it. It is fairly possible to overtake, as you've just seen with the DRS, the difference in speed. When you have the traction out of this hairpin, you can just squeeze on the gas, find that your rear tyres grip up, and off you go. And this was a slam dunk pass for George that he needed to make.
Yeah, you could really see with the cars around Norris and Leclerc all having DRS as well. We're starting to see an offset in the lap times as Norris and Leclerc are coming to the end of the real performance on that hard tyre. It's a question now of weighing up, if they are trying to do a one-stop, just how many laps they can do on the next set of tyres.
They would take the fragile mediums with lower fuel, with the track cooling as we get later in the day. These are the highest temperatures of the weekend so far. Track temperature at 49 degrees. The air temperature is at 24. And we were running, George Russell was pointing out, the qualifying started at 4 p.m. at local time. It's currently 2:30 local time, so an earlier start time for the Grand Prix and warmer conditions as a result. Charles Leclerc calling for that one stop on the radio, we believe. He's still ahead of Max Verstappen. He's scrubbing off the speed from 190 miles per hour down into turn 1, turn 2, and standing on the power of this circuit of close walls and many chicanes.
Russell's not opening up the gap to Leclerc maybe as quickly as I thought. He was only 4-5 tenths quicker on that lap once he got some clean air ahead of him.
Leclerc's just outside of the DRS range though, so that will allow Verstappen a chance to pass this time. And then I think we'll see George jump back on the gas and head towards Lando Norris up front.
Fernando Alonso, left-hand side of your screen, trying to get past Yuki Tsunoda. And it's Alonso on 12-lap-old hard tyres trying to get past Tsunoda, who is yet to stop. And that is the move that you're looking at, or the move that Alonso is trying to make in the left-hand side of your screen. Further up the order, can Max Verstappen get that pass? The Red Bull very slippery in a straight line. He's not as close as George Russell was coming out of turn 10. Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen traditionally race each other very, very fairly, and it's not going to be a race because Charles Leclerc is coming into the pit lane and he is going to get a new set of Pirelli tyres attached to that Ferrari as he reduces the car down to the pit lane speed limit. Verstappen up to third. He's 1.7 seconds away from George Russell.
So that's a two-stop for Leclerc and Ferrari, and it will probably make Norris pit on the next lap as well to cover him off.
I don't understand this choice.
He wanted the one, didn't he? He wanted the one, and he was still ticking along well. So Ferrari think otherwise.
I don't understand this choice.
Final chicane, so it is a day where you can overtake around this racetrack. Sometimes you get DRS trains and it's very tricky to make a move. We're not seeing that today. Norris still hasn't stopped, 1.3 seconds ahead of George Russell at the moment as we have a look at the Aston Martin getting past the Red Bull.
Another easy pass there with fresher tyres for Alonso. So does Norris pit and just cover off Leclerc for a two-stop, or do McLaren go punchy with Lando? They don't go punchy.
As soon as you said do McLaren go punchy, on the evidence of the last couple of years, they've played the percentages. It made them world champions in the Constructors' Championship last year. Norris wants his maiden driver's title in 2025. Started today, 10 points behind Oscar Piastri's teammate.
Slick work from the McLaren team, and he's back on his way. And he'll just feel all that extra performance from those new tyres. It'll just stop that little bit better. And crucially, when you commit to the turns, when you lean on it, the car will just turn. It's like being on nice sharp edges if you go skiing or skating or any other sport where you strap something to your feet.
Norris out ahead of Charles Leclerc, covering off the Ferrari stop.
And did you see how far back Hamilton was as well? We said Lewis was losing time in the traffic when he pitted. Norris was side by side with Hamilton when Hamilton pitted, and now he is 7 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton, and he's just come out on fresh tyres as well, medium tyres for Norris. So he's switching to that worst tyre at this stage, and he's doing something different to Leclerc and Ferrari. So that's their battle for 5th and 6th.
Why have we boxed? Why did we box?
We're on plan D.
Yeah, but I was just telling you tyres were fine.
It's still not smooth sailing when it comes to strategy at Ferrari. Still not.
Well, you said at the time they don't argue with him now. They just tell him to do what they want.
It was factually accurate. It's just not the way I thought it was going to go.
Why have we boxed? Why did we box?
We're on plan D.
Yeah, but I was just telling you tyres were fine.
To box, to come into the pit lane when they told him to, but could there have been more of a fight there if he wanted the one stop?
Well, if he truly believed that he had the bigger picture, then if you stay out, they can't change your tyres. But that's the thing, that as a driver, you just have that little doubt, don't you? If the team say box, they've got more information. They can see what's happening on the racetrack. It might even be that there's just been an incident and you haven't quite yet seen there's going to be a virtual, but they're confident there will. There's a number of factors that put doubt in your mind. But bottom line is, if the driver doesn't pit, they can't change the tyres.
Gentle entry 3 and 8. Gentle entry 3 and 8.
We are racing, not testing.
Love it. Gotta love that. He is just feisty, isn't he? He's like, you know, what is he?
Gentle entry, 3 and 8. Gentle entry, 3 and 8.
We are racing, not testing.
For the Minardi team, and Fernando Alonso appreciates the feedback, but he has always been super aggressive behind the wheel, and he's looking to score his second points finish of the season after 9th place at his home Grand Prix 2 weeks ago.
Is that worthy of Kimi Raikkonen-esque, leave me alone, I know what I'm doing? We have the Fernando version, we are racing, not testing.
Yeah, he's got a series of greatest hits on the radio through the years, hasn't he? We'll add that one to the list.
We're always getting won a race, aren't we, at the moment?
Yeah, that's true, that's true. But I was not just the greatest hits, the lines, but I was thinking, is it T-shirt worthy, gentlemen?
DC planning some merch for Fernando Alonso.
Have you not known the DC merch line?
Thank you for the
I can
promotion,
see him
gentlemen.
jotting it down as they're coming in.
I love it. I just love the hunger, the passion.
Yeah, he's determined. He's always so determined. How many times we hear Fernando Alonso put it, say, P7 on the grid and say, there was nothing else. That was an amazing lap, I had nothing more. A couple of years ago, he had the car to place it on the podium time and time again. We saw it 8 times in 2023, one of the great subplots of that season.
But I can see a political career after, as we see the Haas getting very wide on the brakes into 8. But yeah, I was going to say I can see Fernando a political career, because in politics it seems if you say it, people might believe it, you know, and he certainly says it, no one questions it.
Yeah. Although he's famously managed to get in the wrong seat at the wrong time, hasn't he, or the right seat at the wrong time in his career, to only have the 2 championships for such a standout star of the sport's history, really. He said that in Monaco, didn't he? He said in Q2, that is as fast as the car will go. Next lap in Q3, a little bit quicker.
Charles Leclerc's got the fastest first sector of anyone in the Grand Prix so far, on tyres that he didn't
the rest of the race on that tyre, and it worked for him. Just circulating round, and he kept a load of cars back, and they got points on debut.
That was back in 2016 when they made their debut. 200 Grand Prix later, and Ocon's trying to get points for the 4th time this season.
Colapinto on board, he was laying some rubber as he came out of turn 6, so he's going all in to try and get this pass done.
All sparring partners in Formula 2, they're not going to continue that battle. Bortoleto is into the pits. Bortoleto chasing his first points in Formula 1 today. Colapinto chasing his first points for Alpine, having come in mid-season as a substitute for Jack Dewar.
We've still got race on out front. It's been a quiet burn, this Grand Prix so far. Leclerc will have to pit again. He has to use a different tyre. He's gone hard and then hard again, so he needs to put on a medium at some point, and he's just going to be hoping for a safety car or a red flag. Behind, you've got Russell, then Verstappen now being caught by both Antonelli, and Piastri is now finding a bit of form. He's just bumped in the fastest lap. That's just been taken by his teammate, and as the fuel's wearing off, it's getting better for McLaren.
This is on board with Alex Albon, and the mechanical failure that made it back-to-back retirements for the Thai driver, pulling off the road at the hairpin at turn 10.
Yeah, that happened very early, so there was clearly some thoughts of seeing if he could get it back to the pits, and then eventually parking it down at 10. This frustrating day continues.
He's had some excellent days around this racetrack, a memorable 7th place a couple of years ago when it was just another one of those alternative strategies, a really long stint on the hard tyre, but Williams, I think, will be frustrated at the end of this weekend.
Okay, Leclerc's pace is dropping off. This is a straight fight between you, Verstappen and Antonelli.
Big optimism on the radio to say not just the car in front, but the car in front of him. Oscar Piastri is ahead. Free of the year.
Yeah, he's definitely pushing on, and we'll get the advantage of the DRS. So Antonelli, it might be difficult for him, and if he wants to actually just not lose too much time with Piastri, that could well pull him back into an opportunity in the closing stages.
Tough though, isn't it, when he's in a net 3rd place, a Formula 1 podium. He's done all of the hard graft, made the place on the first lap. You can't wave anyone through at this stage.
What are we waiting for to stop?
We don't want to do too many laps on the medium.
I don't get it. The medium for me to good drive.
More disagreements on the radio for Charles Leclerc and his team.
Wow, that's surprising. They must have had the conversation before on where they think the tyres lie. They have.
What are we waiting for to stop?
We don't want to do too many laps on the medium.
I don't get it. The medium for me to good drive.
Are they?
Well, Norris has just done a really decent 18-up stint on the medium tyre. That's all that Leclerc would have to do to get to the end, but Ferrari keep him out. At this point, you do that though and just hope for an intervention. There are walls lining the circuit. Hope that there's going to be some level of safety car or red flag that will bring Leclerc into race-winning contention rather than take what will be probably a 6th place in today's Grand Prix. This is getting close, isn't it, for Piastri? He's really found his rhythm now on this set of tyres, and he's looking like the championship leader we've seen for the last 9 Grand Prix.
Track is rubbing in, fuel has burnt off. Lap 53 of 70. Norris has the fastest first sector of anyone so far, and the fastest lap. Piastri has caught Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli in position at the moment to be the 3rd youngest podium finisher in Formula 1 history, in the entire 75-year history of the World Championship, celebrating this that anniversary this year. Crucially though, Antonelli, Piastri, any real form going side by side, wheel to wheel. Charles Leclerc's been called in. George Russell has the race lead, and look how close the championship lead. They're both chasing firsts, aren't they? First title in Formula 1 for Oscar Piastri. First podium is the aim in this Grand Prix for Kimi Antonelli, who checks the left-hand mirror and sees a chasing Oscar Piastri behind. Here's Charles Leclerc's pit stop.
A little bit hesitant pulling away out of the box there, so I don't think it was a full-on anti-stall, but he'll now get the benefit of those fresh tyres. But meanwhile, this little battle here, Antonelli, well, this is his first sort of big test, isn't it? As you said, Julian, you're not going to give up on a podium, but equally, any results right now in his rookie year, especially with those points involved, the team are going to be happy.
I'm not fully see the logic of Leclerc pitting at that moment. He's on 10 seconds back from Norris in a safe sixth. He's under no pressure from anyone behind. In fact, it's his teammate, but Hamilton's miles back. So he's just nestled now into sixth and taken himself out of contention to maybe get lucky in the last part of the race. But if he doesn't get lucky, he's still sixth. So they seem to be locking that in. Maybe if he's an absolute wizard here and get back to fifth. But anyway, we have race on out front. Antonelli's best chance to defend is to get closer to Verstappen. He's 1.3 seconds back. He's already getting a nice slipstream, which is just keeping him out of Piastri's reach for now. And if he can just find that little bit more, then that's spawning a DRS train, and they'll all try and get back to Russell. Guys, it's for the race lead.
I absolutely love it. 4.1 seconds separate the top four. We've waited a while for them to bunch up, but bunch up they have on lap 55 of 70. Russell chasing his first win of the year. George Russell, without a contract at Mercedes for Formula One in 2026, wants the statement win today over the man who has been linked to that team. Verstappen looking for 4 Canadian Grand Prix wins in a row. Antonelli looking for a piece of history and looking to be an 18-year-old Formula One podium finisher. And Piastri just wants to extend that championship lead.
Yeah, I think Piastri is the one that, well, clearly he'll want to get the pass done. But if you look at the lap times, Russell, Verstappen, Antonelli, Piastri, they're all pretty much 14.8. And then you've got Norris behind, 14.3. So Norris is getting ever bigger in Piastri's mirrors.
Yeah, that gap's come down from 4 seconds to 2.5 since the pit stop for the second McLaren in the Grand Prix. It's close this time. Antonelli is driving on those mirrors and now looks further ahead. They both make the chicane, but Antonelli under huge pressure right now as we go to the first turn on the racetrack.
He would be very brave to get a pass done here.
Oh, that angle made it look like he was going for the latest of lunges.
It did indeed. We all sat back there, but yeah, Piastri's hungry for it.
That is not an Oscar Piastri style move. I was astonished by that camera angle. Wasn't quite the true picture.
I think it shows he's getting frustrated and not having a massive traction advantage coming out of the hairpin. So just as DC was saying, what a brave move it would have to be, off he goes to the inside line. It would be incredibly brave. Not many work out there. It's not a massive braking zone. You're attacking turn one with a lot of speed. But look, all of that means Norris is getting closer and closer. Now just 2 seconds away from the back of Piastri. If he does many more of them, he has to start thinking about being careful, because otherwise Lando will have a chance to actually get ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Alex, I was just going to say Antonelli will get a nice slipstream off that back marker, so that'll just take a little bit of pressure off on this lap.
And that's the effect that Jody was encouraging, catching Max Verstappen. Antonelli will now lap the sole remaining racing bull in the race. They've just not had the balance around here this weekend. It's been a good season for Isaac Hadjar, but he's been chasing it all weekend long. His teammate is the second retirement of the Grand Prix. And he blends out of the throttle, driver in 15th place, lapped by the driver in third, the driver in fourth, and now it's 1.6 seconds between Russell and Verstappen. Stay with this Grand Prix, and yet have a sting in the tail.
I'm not going anywhere. This is awesome. This is absolutely awesome. And you know, again, maybe I'm getting overexcited, but the pace of this race and the way they're having to fingertip their way through, we've not seen any mistakes really from these front runners, and it's so difficult to do on this racetrack.
6 seconds. 6 seconds.
Sorry, mate. It's a hard day, and this is the cherry on top. But we had to take care of this view.
That's why they're retiring Liam Lawson.
So let me try again. 6 seconds separates the...
Sorry, mate. It's a hard day, and this is the cherry on top. But we had to take care of this view.
All in a line. You've got Russell, then Verstappen, then Antonelli, the championship leader Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. But an incredible sight, the top 5 separated by 5.6 seconds. Can anyone put on a bold move to improve their position at the end, the final stages of this Grand Prix? So as the fuel loads are coming down, the track's rubbering in, the cars are getting better and better. There's still personal best laps coming in from Antonelli and Piastri on
the last lap. Earlier on, it looked like Russell had the measure. Earlier on, it looked like Russell had the measure of grading his tyres quicker. Max was just degrading his tyres, really coming into his own. Now he's really coming into his own.
For Oliver Behrman, frantic games for Oliver Behrman out of the way. As he's getting out of the way. So as he's aim, Behrman has to get out of the way with the blue flags flying. Get out of the way with the blue flags flying. So running into wrong position, so bang into wrong position. Into the way a second away from place to the final point. A second away from through. A second away from place to get through. So that's going to get through. Each other about the top 5 place. What about the race which are you taking a minute? Nudging each other on the race with no safety car. This stage and no safety car spread to have now the driver's getting his braver at this stage. Now the driver's getting his braver. Now the driver's getting braver. Now the driver's go back to his getting past Behrman. Piastri 2 seconds back to his Pinto. Out goes back to his 2 seconds.
The team grade 2 seconds. Piastri's now on the cusp with DRS range of Antonelli again. Piastri's now on the cusp with DRS range of Antonelli again. So here we go, the back markers are now clear. Here we go, the back markers are now clear. The moment has passed the last space for the moment. So this is it. It's top 5 cars. Here we go, 1, 2, so this is one more back top 5 cars. Here we go, 1, 2, top 5 cars. One more back marker, 2, and then one more back marker, and then we're back on.
Unfortunate in the middle of turn 5. Unfortunate Russell out front in the middle of turn 5. Russell out front 5. Russell out front is away quicker and the lead away. So lead feels like Russell definitely got this under control. Feels like Russell has made his stop after an enormous stint. Has made his stop. Ocon has made his stop. Still running in the top 10. Still running. Still running. Top 10 to head. Sainz out to take advantage of staying out of the way. Sainz Russell's goes ahead. Sainz shuffling back. George Russell's position. One wide moment. Responding on that lap to get the gap to 1 point. One lock up and the race win. One disappearing and the race
moving to the middle of the road, trying to put a bit of pressure on his teammate. Trying to put a bit of pressure on his teammate now. He's less than that away from Piastri, who's dropped away from Piastri, who's dropped away from Antonelli as well. So fourth and fifth as well. So and this is championship at stake between. This is championship at stake between them.
It would be huge for Lando Norris. It would be huge for Lando Norris. To lose positions. He would have been expecting to lose positions. Piastri in third, with Norris in seventh. Piastri in third, with Norris in seventh. The Grand Prix on the hard started the Grand Prix on the hard tide. Did not go to plan. Did not go to plan to minimise the damage. We haven't seen to minimise the damage. The two McLarens go super aggressive against each other. Super aggressive against each other. Plenty of evidence this year that they can race each other, albeit in a race each other, albeit in a very uncomfortable moment.
So do you remember Imola and the last stint? Norris had much better tyres. Norris had much better tyres. Came past Piastri. So close to touching. They didn't, and because Norris had much better tyres, it looked like a sort of slam dunk move. It looked like a sort of slam dunk hold it to the inside. Because did try and hold it to the inside. Because these positions, fourth or fifth. It's only worth 2 points. But it's a net 4 points in the championship when you're over your rival. In the championship when you're over your rival. In it. And when it's only 10 points in it. Norris is really close this time. As well, and Norris is really close this time.
With the only driver ahead of him. With the only driver ahead of him. 10 points separating these two. 10 points separating these two. At the start of the Grand Prix. Norris trying to chip away from Oscar Piastri. Take 2 away, given how good that McLaren has been. Given how good that McLaren has been. Weakest race of the year so far. Weakest race of the year so far. Only 5 seconds away from the race lead. Only 5 seconds away from the race lead. All the way to the end of Abu Dhabi, our final race lead. Of Abu Dhabi, our final race lead.
Every point matters. Every point matters. Norris is looking the stronger. Quite obviously the stronger. Quite obviously he's got plenty of laps to do it.
We would have another. If there was a safety car, we would take it for a soft.
Yep.
If there was a safety car, we would have another. If there was a safety car, we would take it for a soft. Stop. Would you take it for a soft? Cool.
Yep.
Lando would like the softest tyre because it final lap shootout stuff if we got one now. Final lap shootout stuff if we got one now.
As well coming in towards the hairpin. This is the best news Kimi Antonelli. This is the best news Kimi Antonelli. Then no tail coming through the hairpin. No tail coming through the hairpin when you're the car behind. To get the traction when you're the car behind. A slight bit of breathing space to start the straight. Slight bit of breathing space to start the straight.
It just feels that Russell is starting to edge away, which is allowing Antonelli, which is allowing Antonelli ever slightly closer to Verstappen. This isn't over by a long way. This isn't over by a long way. George Russell does his personal best lap. George Russell does his personal best lap in the Grand Prix. Last time around. Trying to stay with him. A tenth behind. Trying to stay with him. A tenth behind. Second. It's
a 2.1 second Grand Prix on lap 62 of 70. Verstappen refuses to let Russell scamper off into the distance. Antonelli trying to close that gap down. Antonelli trying to close that gap down. Lando Norris to DRS range. Lando Norris is in DRS range for a move. We saw a couple of years ago at the hairpin. A couple of years ago at the hairpin on the brakes. It's not been that sort of lunge on the brakes. It's not been that sort of Grand Prix. It's not been that sort of day. How much is Norris prepared to risk in the World Championship battle? In the World Championship battle.
It's a 4-point swing, and it's the momentum swing
off the back of a really difficult day. Off the back of a really difficult day.
He's even closer on this lap looking back. He's even closer on this lap looking back.
All the way through the season. At some point, it's going to get close. At some point, it's going to get close. That's the encouragement from race engineer to driver. From race engineer to driver. Building up to 200 miles per hour. Because he's rival for the title is right there. Because he's rival for the title is right there. Another DRS zone coming his way right about now. Coming his way right about now.
It really feels that... It really feels engineer. It's Lando's engineer all the way, isn't it? He's sort of giving him the ABC of how to qualify. Keep it on the line, be good with your braking advice with the DRS. Now a little bit of advice with the DRS, which
it is, but what he's saying is, but what he's saying is, Antonelli in front getting closer to Antonelli in front again. Piastri's done a personal best lap of the race. He's quicker than anyone ahead of him, but he's under this amount of pressure from Norris. But he's under this amount of pressure from Norris. And if Piastri finds another 2 tenths, then it will be so difficult for Lando to try and make the move. Because you're in the DRS train, you won't get the overspeed. So you won't get the overspeed. Maybe he'll get another lap. Maybe he'll get another lap. He's doing brilliantly on himself. The best form brilliantly is to get within DRS of the car ahead. Is to get within DRS of the car ahead.
We both know that any contact here that brings Max Verstappen firmly back in the championship picture. The championship picture. Finds himself 39 points behind Lando Norris. 39 points behind Oscar Piastri. Behind Oscar Piastri. Aware. Contact could do to the context of this World Championship. To the context of this World Championship.
Come again, and now Piastri is within DRS range. Piastri is within DRS range of Antonelli. He was so calm, wasn't he? Norris is menacing in the mirrors, wasn't he? Norris is menacing in the mirrors into that chicane. The championship leader is teammate off. The championship leader is teammate off. The wall of champions is there on the exit. The curves are really big. It's so easy to miss your line. It's so easy to miss your line. Bounce over the curbs, find yourself heading to the wall. The pressure is being heaped on. The pressure is being heaped on. He doesn't feel pressure, does he? He doesn't feel pressure, does he? He's just defending it as he absolutely has to. Absolutely has to. By doing so, he's got to within. By doing so, he's got to within. He's on the cusp of it right now to Antonelli. And he needs it to just be a little bit more assured. To just be a little bit more assured.
I'm holding my breath on this one. I'm holding my breath on this one. As you said that, commentator's curves. Going to be the commentator's curves. He doesn't feel pressure. One little error of judgment. Get off that really clean, grippy racing line. Really clean, grippy racing line. I think it's sucked onto the dusty piece of the racetrack. Offline piece of the racetrack. Great performance from all these drivers. Really great performance from all these drivers.
Piastri at a crucial time. I think Norris was even closer. Look how Norris was even tighter to the back. Look how tight it is to the back of the fourth place car as Norris hits the brakes, and that was with Piastri having DRS. So it's with Piastri having DRS. So Oscar can now look at a podium again. Oscar can now look at a podium again.
By his teammate, he's been forced to have this pace to bring him back into contention. Antonelli hasn't faced this type of pressure. Antonelli hasn't faced this type of pressure looking for his first podium in the championship.
So the other one I wonder now is the Norris hairpin move. Is the Norris hairpin move earlier on? It was a couple of years ago. Earlier on, it was a couple of years ago in a DRS train and was firing in the Carlos Sainz and was firing in the Carlos Sainz block down the inside because when you're in this down the inside because when you're in this train bypass, you can't just because the guy ahead has the same straight line speed. Because the guy ahead has the same straight line speed. He's getting in everything. He's whipped through that chicane generally. That might have been a bit too scrappy for Norris. That might have been a bit too scrappy for Norris. But if he can stay this close, firing in a lunge and getting racy, when you're not expecting racy, as a driver, when you're not expecting DRS, as a driver, you're just looking to that DRS, you're looking for the traction on the way in. You can catch someone move on the way in. You can catch someone a little bit sleepy.
Here we go with Kimi Antonelli looking in the left mirror. Kimi Antonelli looking in the left mirror. So is Oscar Piastri. Piastri getting closer and closer and closer. He's had a third place last year. He's had a third place last year with George Russell taken away by Max Verstappen. Taken away by Max Verstappen further down the road. But who is going to stand? Down the road. But who is going to stand at the podium? The McLaren's moving around. The McLaren's moving around. It's at this stage of the Grand Prix. It's at this stage of the Grand Prix now. Liking the balance of the car now. A lot of confidence in this first sector. A lot of confidence in this first sector. Opportunity.
Obvious overtaking opportunity. Has got really good drive off the corner. Really good drive off the corner. So he may not have at this stage of the Grand Prix. This stage of the Grand Prix. Crucially, where it counts on traction, that Mercedes looks good.
Antonelli's also absorbing pressure. Antonelli's also absorbing pressure. Just in his Formula One race. Just in his looking at a Formula One race. He's 5 laps away. He's got the championship leader and the dominant cars right behind him. And the dominant cars right behind him.
An opportunity for Lando Norris. Thinking about it to the inside. Thinking about it to the inside. With the hairpin. Piastri drives the hairpin. Piastri drives the feet in the grandstand. The crowd on their feet in the World Championship. The top two in the World Championship side by chicane. Heading into the final chicane. Separated by nothing. Separated by nothing. To 200 clear. Late on the brakes for Piastri. Does he make the corner? He does. Does he make the corner? He does. And Norris can't fight his way by. We got to fight his way by. We got to turn one. The McLaren's collide. Lando Norris collide. Lando Norris into the race. Chasing to the race. Chasing fourth place. The McLaren's collide. And Norris is it
That's
out.
Exactly where we saw Hamilton. That's exactly where we saw Hamilton and Button
if I recall.
touching that same place when they were teammates. And we knew it was going to happen at some point. We knew it was going to happen at some point. We've spoken about it. We just didn't think it was going to happen there. We just didn't think it was going to happen there.
Reward. Risk. And the safety car is out, and the safety car is out. Has cost Lando Norris points in the World Championship. Points in the World Championship. Together. The McLaren's come together.
That's huge. I mean, we've been waiting for this. Huge. I mean, we've been waiting for this between the McLarens to fire into life, and it has just done. Fire into life, and it has just done. Brilliant. The Norris move that he's done before. Up the inside. The one that he's done before. Up the inside. And had the inside line again. And then Lando had one more chance. And then Lando had one more chance. It collided on the straight. Was Lando ambitious to hang it through there as the track was arcing to the right-hand side, or was he squeezed into the barrier, or was he squeezed into the barrier? Obviously it was the latter. Let's wait for a replay to see exactly how that unfolded. To see exactly how that unfolded. It's a difficult part of the circuit, and it's a difficult part of the circuit to the right before you get the left-hand bend.
Right, to turn 10 we go. Lando Norris late on the brakes. Lando Norris late on the brakes. And they ran wheel to wheel for so long. And they ran wheel to wheel for so long. This is the straight before. On the pit straight. This is the straight before.
Yeah, wheel to wheel stuff and. Always going to be advantage Oscar on the brakes on the inside. On the brakes on the inside. He goes a bit deep through the right. That compromises him a bit through the right. That compromises him a bit for the exit. And then we've got Lando. He's actually hit his wing on the back. He's actually hit his wing on the back before getting alongside. Before getting alongside. So that's an error of judgment. That's an error of judgment.
I think it is. It's a misjudgment. So he's hoping it's a misjudgment. And he just doesn't. He drives into the back of his teammate. He drives into the back of his teammate to work the opportunity. He's done such good work to work the opportunity.
Are you alright? I'm sorry. Oh, my bad. Yeah, I'm sorry. Hold up, my bad. Oh, my fault. Hold up. Unlucky. Sorry. Stupid for me.
Are you alright, dude? Are you alright?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, my bad. Yeah, I'm sorry. Hold up. Oh, my fault. Hold up. Unlucky. Sorry. Unlucky. Sorry. Stupid for me. Stupid for me.
Just a replay in my mind of what we saw with Hamilton and Button in that very same space. Defer to you to recall the year. Defer to you to recall the year.
You know what? I don't think it is. I think this is a. You know what? I don't think it is. I think this is a bad misjudgment from Norris. Hamilton. Button and Hamilton. They were slightly side by side, didn't he? They were slightly side by side. Hamilton was going for a similar move. Hamilton was going for a similar move. Slightly side by side. They were actually slightly side by side. Norris is just driven into the back. That's why he's taken the blame on the chin. And that's why he's taken the blame on the chin.
With the precautionary pit stop, he's on the soft tyres, he lets the others go. On the soft tyres, he lets the others go. To go through the pit lane. He had the buffer through the pit lane. And Lando Norris chasing 12 points. Chasing 12 points. Sees 10 points for P5 disappear. And we talked about this. And we talked about this before they went wheel to wheel. You cannot give Max a sniff Max Verstappen championship battle in this World Championship battle. And the cars come through the pit lane. But we see Lando Norris give up. But we see Lando Norris give up in the World Championship battle.
And in the World Championship these moments, and he has waited a long time to go. He has waited a long time to go. Wheel to wheel, positions, crucial positions, with his points. Your adrenaline is pumping. Your heart is racing. 190 beats per minute. Racing 190 beats per minute. Intensity of these moments. Imagine the intensity of these moments at the hairpin. Lando sent in the lunge, but Oscar sent in a defensive lunge. But Oscar sent in a defensive lunge and neutralised it. Also, Lando then is neutralised it. Lando then is looking at one more chance. But he's just misjudged it. But he's just simply misjudged it. He's plain and simply misjudged the situation. Under a big pressure situation, it's going to be a painful one for him.
Well, this is going to be this is going to be all the emotional roller coasters he's had. All the emotional roller coasters he's had. This is going to be the most difficult one for him to deal with. I admire the fact that he's taken it on the chin straight away. He's taken it on the chin straight away. Tried to sort of wait for the replay. Sort of wait for the replay.
Max Verstappen and George Russell behind the safety car. And George Russell behind the safety car.
George suddenly is aggressively brake. George suddenly is aggressively brake.
Check for any erratic driving. Check for any erratic driving.
I'll give over. Come on.
Yeah, disregard that. The race is going to be
aggressively brake. Check for any erratic driving. Check for any erratic driving.
I was giggling there, Julian.
Such a British expression.
Give over. It's such a British expression.
It's kind of oldie worldly. You're not quite. It's kind of oldie worldly. You're not quite. Remember that expression to be able to. Well, he's a new dad, and it's fun.
Verstappen just overtook me at the safety car.
Understood, Buller. Thank you, and to you, DC, and to you,
well,
Alex. As well. It's so. We've just had 69, isn't it? We've just had 69. The Grand Prix has been decided. Russell will win this now. Russell will win this now. We don't need a sort of nap penalty. We don't need a sort of nap penalty for either of those top two drivers for something like that.
Yeah, that incident with Russell now being shown on the incident with Russell. It's pretty blatant. Yeah, that incident with Russell now being shown on the pretty blatant. Just don't fall for the gamesmanship, okay? Just don't fall for the gamesmanship, okay?
First time a Grand Prix ever finished behind a safety car was here. The year that we got 1999. The year that we got Wall of Champions. And Wall of Champions is back in this championship battle. Back in this championship battle. Score. Oscar Piastri's his chance of points disappear. Charles Leclerc is promoted to disappear. Charles Leclerc is promoted to Lewis Hamilton. P6 back points for Lewis Hamilton. Fernando Alonso. Points finishes for Fernando Alonso. Nico Hulkenberg. Points net to Hulkenberg. Points net to Ocon and Haas. Esteban Ocon. Carlos Sainz miserable yesterday. Carlos Sainz miserable yesterday. Will come away with at least after the top two in the World Championship come together at the end of the Grand Prix together and Lando the Grand Prix and Lando Norris retires.
And he was having such a good drive, wasn't he? And he was having such a good drive, wasn't he? He was the stronger McLaren driver making up for that. McLaren driver making up for that. That's what would be more gutting to Lando. And I guess it would be more gutting to Lando that he was the stronger driver today. But he was the stronger driver today. But times Q3 and then the race times Q3 will and then the race the lead. Piastri will. What about Kimi Antonelli? Under all of that pressure, getting under all of that pressure, getting a Mercedes podium. What a day for Mercedes. What a weekend.
1 and 3 and a moment of Formula 1 history coming your way with the Formula 1 history coming your way with the third place finisher is going to celebrate his first Formula 1 podium. First Formula 1 podium. Verstappen. Russell on the end of the jab. On the end of the jab. George Russell said he left Montreal with regret. This year he's going to leave with the largest trophy. With the largest trophy. He will bring his Mercedes. He will bring his Mercedes out to the 70th chicane last time. This year, he converts pole to the win. Across the line we go. George Russell for the fourth time in Formula 1 wins. George Russell wins the Canadian Grand Prix. The Canadian Grand Prix. And he converts pole position to win the first time in his career. His first win of the season. Mercedes win of the season. Mercedes first Verstappen in second place, Verstappen in second place, and the third podium finisher is Kimi Antonelli. For the first time in just his 10th race.
Yeah, what a beautiful day for the Mercedes team. Beautiful day for the Mercedes team. Will love that moment being up there. Love that moment with George up there. Who was with George, who was in Montreal. I didn't see in Montreal any point during that Grand Prix. Any point during that.
It was just a race of absorbing pressure. It wasn't just a race of absorbing pressure. It wasn't piling it on Russell early on, and then piling it on Russell early on, and then the whole battle for third, and then Antonelli soaking it in. Brilliant drive.